Episode 2 just released and we saw a lot more about Jax's personality, where in the majority of the time he acted way meaner in episode 1, even though beforehand we thought he was going to be depressed because of this scene, where we see him moving his finger in the water, but when we actually saw the episode we saw that he was actually being cruel. And he's actually had a little bit of character development in some of these scenes, like where we saw Jax interacting with Zubul, and after Kane announces the new adventure, Zubul says she's not going, and Jax asks her if she doesn't want to mess with the new AI, and their dynamic seems to be interesting. While Jax can manipulate others like Gangle or Ragatha, it seems like Zubul does not care what Jax has to say, but he seems to also respect her. And after Zubul leaves, Jax breaks the fourth wall by looking at the camera and shrugging, which I didn't even notice until now. And after this scene, Kane pushes the circus members through the gate and into the Candy Canyon Kingdom, where Jax only gets excited when he sees the truck that the princess provides them, and he says, "Ooh, violence." And that was the line that Goosework shared out of context, and now it makes perfect sense why Jax said it. We can also see how after they're left alone and all of the main characters are sitting in the truck, Jax immediately starts to act like he was in charge. He pulls out the candy shotgun, which we saw in the trailer as well, and he points it to Gangle, telling her what to do. And it does seem like Jax is trying to keep himself sane by being mean to everyone and causing chaos, because in the next shot he grabs Pomni by her neck and throws her out of the roof of the truck. So I'm thinking that he would literally sacrifice any of the other circus members just so he can keep himself sane, and that is why Goosework said that there is nothing heroic about Jax. He's completely self-absorbed, and in the next scene where he is again, he's telling Gangle to ram into the other truck, and Ragatha tries to warn him that Pomni's on top, and he just pushes Ragatha out of the way and says to Gangle, "Do it, it'll be epic." Jax also says, "Do it or I'll tell Ragatha about the figurine thing," and this seems to be blackmail, which makes me think about how Jax is probably involved with the lives of the others in the circus and probably knows a lot of the little details about everyone else, so he can use that information to his advantage if he needs to, which of course is blackmail. Like if you remember back to episode 1, when Jax, Pomni, and Ragatha went to see Kaufmo, Jax pulled out the key to Kaufmo's room and said that he put centipedes in Ragatha's room, and so it also makes sense that Jax has a key to Gangle's room as well. But as for why Gangle doesn't want to know Ragatha about a figurine thing, I'm not even sure what that is. Maybe Gangle makes figurines of the NPCs and circus members, and for some reason the one she made about Ragatha might be embarrassing or weird, or maybe what she does with the figurines is weird, and maybe she doesn't like Ragatha. I'm not 100% sure, but it is interesting that Jax is manipulating Gangle by saying he will snitch on her. Not only is Jax evil, but he will use other people's secrets to his advantage. But the thing is, Ragatha is super kind to everyone, even after Pomni left her to die twice, so I'm not sure why Gangle would be worried if Ragatha is gonna figure out about the figurine thing. What I'm thinking is that Jax doesn't really care about telling Ragatha Gangle's secret. He cares about Gangle into a state of panic where she would do anything he wants, which is really twisted. And if you look at it, I think this is the only time that Gangle smiled while she was sad, and the fact that he would also kill Pomni if it meant to make the adventure more exciting is actually crazy. However, I think that it is true that the circus members can't die in the circus world, because Ragatha literally got stabbed through the heart, and when they were looking for Pomni, I'm pretty sure Kinger said we can just ask Kane to find Pomni if it comes to the worst. But he still was willing to abandon Pomni and let stuff happen, because it is true that the circus members do still feel pain, and I'm sure the part where Ragatha got stabbed through the heart was excruciating pain. But the part where they fell into the chocolate lake and the fudge monster tells a story about eating the town people, Ragatha says that it's murder, and the chocolate fudge monster says, "Is it really murder if it's delicious?" And Jax says, "Great point." So we see how Jax actually thinks about himself in this situation, where he gets enjoyment out of seeing others suffer or even die. That's just nasty. And if he really justifies his actions by these morals, that means that he's not remorseful. Well, there actually might be some character development here. If we fast forward to a later part of the episode where the characters are back in the tent and they're having the funeral for Kaufmo, Ragatha explains to Pomni how they like to hold these ceremonies to remember those who abstract, and Kinger says it's the least that they can do. And when it cuts to Jax, you can actually see Jax's face softening for a split second, and then he returns to his room and doesn't attend the funeral. And what I'm thinking is that maybe Jax grew to like Kaufmo, but he can't just let himself show any emotion to the other circus members except for being annoyed or violent, which is attaches his mask to protect himself. Because when the circus members give their speeches, we can't hear what they're saying, we can only see that everyone liked Kaufmo and they feel like they lost someone out of the group. Because when you spend a lot of your time with someone, you start to care about them. So even if Kaufmo's jokes weren't the absolute best, as we know from episode 1, it seems that the characters still loved him, so they had a funeral for him. And we can see that how Jax had a nickname for Kaufmo, and he has his bowling ball in his room. So maybe Jax and Kaufmo were spending time together, and that's why Jax cared about Kaufmo. He just didn't want to show that to portray this tough guy act. And interestingly, when we saw the scene where Jax is sitting alone in the sunset looking all sad, that wasn't the character development we thought of. Instead of Jax being remorseful about his acts, he's just sad that the adventure was boring because nothing violent happened. And it's weird to see how Gangle and Ragatha are towards Jax. When he said he was disappointed with the adventure, Ragatha told him that maybe the next one is gonna be more in his favor. But she must known that would mean that she would suffer even more, because thanks to Jax, Ragatha got a knife in her head, and we know how the characters can feel pain, so I'm thinking that they're used to Jax's cruelty. Or maybe Ragatha just wanted to comfort him just because she didn't want tension between them. She does say a lot of things that she probably doesn't mean, putting her own feelings aside and wanting everyone to feel loved, going to show her motherly figure. And it is very admirable to see how much Ragatha cares about everyone even if they don't care about her. For example, when Pomni and Gummy Goo are back, Ragatha immediately runs over like a mother would and asks if Pomni is okay. But in the next episode, I'm thinking we'll figure out a lot more about Jax, because we're seeing his personality unfold even more. And I'm happy that he didn't shoot anyone with the candy shotgun he had, but I'm hoping that he'll also try to become a better person. And I think that we might see him be even more evil in the next few episodes, but I do hope that we'll see a little bit more of his relationship with Kaufmo, because based on his face, it looks like he got a little bit emotional about Kaufmo abstracting. And it makes me wonder, maybe Jax had something to do with Kaufmo abstracting, and maybe that's why he's feeling a bit sad, because he did look a bit annoyed after we saw the bit of emotion come through his face. So maybe he remembered somebody else who didn't get a funeral. Maybe it's possible, but honestly, I don't think that he made any real friends in the circus yet. As it was said by Gooseworks, no one in the circus actually likes Jax. However, Ragatha still loves him and is super admirable. I would not be able to do what Ragatha does. Or maybe I could, but I'm gonna be struggling. We actually do know that Jax got in the circus when he was quite young, but Gooseworks also said that he deserves to be in the circus the most out of all characters, so that would mean that his personality wasn't that nice even in his human form while he was younger. So what I'm thinking is that acting this way is his way of coping in the video game of the Amazing Digital Circus, which is understandable but in a twisted way, obviously. And so I'm wondering if the other circus members might snap at one point and start to match Jax's attitude. And I think that he would be very taken off guard if someone acted the same way to him as he is acting to others. And hopefully he will change and we'll see a trailer for episode 3 where Jax is nicer for once. But we did assume wrong with the episode 2 trailer, but that's besides the point. But let me know what you think about Jax in episode 2. Me personally, he was cruel. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video here.